I have the special honor and privilege to welcome Reverend David Songy, President and CEO of the St. Luke Institute. Father Songy is a psychologist who has extensive experience working with clergy and religious, including integrated psychological and spiritual treatment, multicultural candidate assessments, and initial and ongoing formation. Previously, he served as spiritual director and prefect of studies at Redemptoris Mater Missionary Seminary and held several positions at St. John Vianney Theological Seminary, both in Denver. He also was director of counseling services for the Pontifical North American College in Rome. Father Songy served on the Provincial Council for the Capuchin Province of Mid-America and was formation director and safe environment coordinator. He holds a doctorate in psychology from the University of Denver, a doctorate in sacred theology from Teresianum in Rome, and a master's degree in pastoral counseling from Loyola College. In gratitude for the generous spirit that shines through your work, it is my honor today to bestow on Reverend David Songy, the Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
That was the easiest doctorate I've ever gotten. You should try it sometime. Yeah. So I wanted to begin using Matthew's Gospel and the parable of the weeds among the wheat, because it really fits the times that we're in. You know the parable. Good seed was sown in the field, but then overnight an enemy came and sowed some wheat. And the workers saw that these weeds were growing among the wheat, and they went to the owner and they said, "Should we pull it out?" And he said, "No, don't do that. Wait until the wheat has grown, the weeds have grown, and you can tell the difference. And then go collect the weeds, tie them in bundles to be burned, and then gather the wheat." We live in a world in which people are confused. What are the weeds? What is the wheat? I mean, it seems obvious, some of the weeds in the world. We have this COVID, we have this pandemic, we have the crisis of war. We've seen the church go through extreme struggles. I could go on and on. Certain people would say that Trump was a weed. Certain people would say Biden was a weed. I won't say where I stand on that. You can put almost any member of Congress and they're either a weed or something. I mean, it's amazing the world we live in. And the word of the owner is really the word of God. It's important to collect the weeds, tie them in bundles, and to be burned. Because even if a person in front of us seems troubled and messed up, what we do is we identify within this holy person, we identify what is a weed. We try to help them to collect that weed, to take it apart so that the wheat could be gathered. There's so much wheat growing in the world as well, and people forget about that because there's goodness all over the place. There are people who love the Lord. There's a church that's vibrant, and it's growing underneath other things. So why am I talking about weeds and wheat? Because when Jesus explains this parable to the apostles, he talks about the angels coming and doing this at the end of time, and you are the angels. That's how it's important to see ourselves. Anyone who is called in any vocation in the church, and if you're baptized, of course, that means everyone, okay? You're all called to be an angel, and it's important to see, especially in this role of counseling and psychology, how you're called to be an angel. Because many times people will come to me and say, what should I do? And they want a quick answer. But my response has become over time, no, listen to the angels. In other words, listen to those who announce the good news of Jesus Christ. Listen to people who know the difference between the weeds and the wheat. So let me tell you a little bit more about angels, and I'm going to give you a job description. Okay, it's a job description. You won't make any money at this, but it's okay. So how are you going to be a good angel? First, an angel is a messenger. They are sent. We need to see ourselves as people who are being sent. And when you receive a degree, one of the things that's happening is you're being sent. And what's been said by the faculty is you are capable of this. You can do this. In every vocation, what's being said by the churches, you are capable of doing this. And we have within us the grace to do this. So we're being sent. But it's important to remember this as well, that we're not going to be good messengers unless we can communicate that to the people. Sometimes when I was teaching in the seminary, I'd use Latin. I thought the seminarians might listen a little closer if I used some Latin. Let's see if you get this. Hope I can pronounce it right. Anyway, you know, when I was in the seminary, we no longer study Latin, okay? Now they do, but when I was, they didn't know Latin. Anyway, quid recipitur secundum modum recipientis. You all got that, right? Right, yeah, I'm glad. Okay, that which is received in the mode of the receiver. This is so important for your work because you might be a really good psychologist, counselor, whatever, a spiritual director, whatever you're calling yourself. And you might be sent with the Spirit of God, and you might be a really smart person. But if that person in front of you doesn't hear you because they're not open, then it's useless. I worked with all sorts of people, and the degrees, they don't make a bit of difference. The number of people that would say to me, oh, I have to work with a priest psychologist. It's the only one, because a priest psychologist is going to understand. And then as soon as I start talking, it's like, no, I don't want to listen to this. Yeah. You know. That which is received in the mode of the receiver. We need to be able to communicate. So the world is not easily going to trust us just because we're psychologists or spiritual directors, and especially when we add that we're Catholic. I mean, not everyone's going to trust us. How do we communicate with them? We need to learn to do our best at trying to do it in such a way as they understand. I'll show you how complicated this is when it comes to weeds. Try to convince your 4-year-old daughter that these beautiful yellow dandelions are weeds. You know, they're not going to believe you, okay? Because they're pretty. You can say they're ugly, but no, they're pretty, okay? So try to talk about weeds with your children. They grow up to be teenagers, and then weed means something totally different. So you come with the message, and I invite you to make sure that you're communicating that message. Supervision will never go away. Sorry to say that. Supervision will never go away. And then what is the message? There are two documents that I often go to because they're so powerful. The message that we have to announce to the world today, one comes from Salvifici Doloris by St. John Paul. He said that in the world of suffering, we are called to be in communion with those who suffer. We recognize the evil. This is part of our vocation, not to say, oh my, there's evil. We recognize the evil. We see where it is. And Christ enables us to enter into the suffering of another, to see the cross and the resurrection alive in that person. This is what we do. We don't take away their suffering. We transform their suffering. We don't just say, well, you know, the goal is just to be happy. We transform the suffering of people so that no matter what the cross, they see the resurrection. They see the cross and the resurrection alive in us, or we're not messengers. If we only talk about this and they don't see this in us, we will never be messengers. Redemptive suffering means to suffer as Christ did. And there's a lot of people in the world who are suffering with no connection to Christ. They don't see it. And this is what we bring to the people. We learn a lot of very good psychological techniques. But the greatest thing that we do is we help people to join their suffering to that of Christ. And the other one I love to quote is Pope Benedict in Spe Salvi. He says in 1 Thessalonians, he's quoting it, it says that you must not grieve as others do who have no hope. And he refers to people who are worried because some people after the resurrection, some of the Christians were dying, and they thought, well, you know, how is it that people are dying? And he said, no. St. Paul is saying, no, don't be as people who do not have hope. A Christian has hope. A Christian knows that God is with him even through death. This is what we say in Psalm 23. Even in death, the Lord accompanies us through the dark valley. You know, when I was training to be a priest, I did a little stint at a hospital. It's called clinical pastoral education. I don't know if some of you have ever done that. And I remember that we used to say that the doctors there, you realize they're going, even if you become a doctor, they're going to say you're not a real doctor, okay? I'm going to help you with that, okay? It's okay. Okay. Now I got 3 doctorates. I'm not a real one either, so. Anyway, but the doctors would go around and we would refer to them as the little gods, because they could get away with anything. They had their own parking lot, they had free meals, I don't know what else they got. And anything they said, everybody would jump and do, unless someone died. And if someone died, they'd come running for the chaplain. And I was 23 years old. There's a doctor saying, oh, I need you. Why was this? Because we represent something different. In the face of death, we're not afraid. In the face of death, we have hope. Who are the true doctors in the world? They're the angels who, in the face of any struggle, has hope. So this is what you're being invited to. You are being invited by this degree that's being given to you. More than that, by the vocation that's being given to you, by the whatever you're receiving today, you are called to be witnesses. You are called to be the angels that Jesus has talked about in the parable. Go forth from here and announce to people the good news, and you'll find that you're the greatest psychologist, spiritual director in the world. Thank you.